All right, this is John Cola with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you. And, what we're looking at here is actually a neighbor's backyard. And this is very similar to many of my neighbors that I could see into their backyard. They might just have rocks in there, might just have like a patch of weeds or nothing growing, because people have a belief that you can't grow food in the desert. And no matter where you live, whether you live in the desert, with a harsh 15-degree weather in the summer and 20-degree weather this past winter, there's always a way to grow food no matter where you live. Whether you're going to do it in the backyard like I'm going to show you guys what I do, or whether you're going to grow sprouts and microgreens inside your kitchen so that you can eat more food that you grew and that you created instead of buying food from the supermarket. I want you guys to be producers instead of consumers. The more you can produce your own food, your own goods, your own products that you use, the less you're going to be needing to buy from the supermarket or consume in this mass consumption world that we live in today. In any case, what I want to do next is actually go ahead and show you guys what half of my backyard looks like. I have like 20 different raised beds in the backyard, growing a good portion of my vegetable needs. I pretty much don't really buy vegetables that much since I could grow them all, although I still buy other fresh fruits and other things to eat. All right, so for comparison purposes, this is what half of my backyard looks like. I haven't yet developed the other half and started a garden there, but I hope to do that this season. And I want to let you guys know that it is possible and actually quite easy to grow food in Las Vegas. I've been doing it for several years now, and I have friends that have been doing it for decades at this point. But in any case, so what we're going to do next is actually share with you guys some of the winter crops that I've grown over the winter. It's now March, and so some of these crops have been growing over the whole winter. I've been eating off of them, and I'm soon actually going to start to plant my spring/summer garden real soon. So let's head down to the garden, show you guys what's growing on. Now we're going to give you guys a tour of what's growing, or what grew in my winter garden, since we are here almost the springtime. The weather's warming up, and when that happens, plants automatically bolt, or they go to flower and then go to seed. It's like they're finishing out their life cycle because they know, like, oh, it's turning into summer, I need to reproduce now before it gets too hot. So in this bed, we got a whole bunch of cruciferous vegetables growing primarily. We got broccoli here that's going to flower, and yes, you can feel free to still eat broccoli flowers, and the stalks and the stems and everything. Even the leaves of the broccoli, all edible. Here's a broccoli that totally went to flower. This is what they look like if you don't harvest it when it's that nice broccoli head. I kind of like to do that for the bees. You'll see some bees buzzing around. I want to give them some food, and they love the pollen in there as well as myself. I love to just pick little broccoli flowers, sprinkle them on your salad. They're quite delicious, and amazingly enough, they taste like broccoli. Also have some cauliflower in here that's still a nice head that we could harvest, as well as some Brussels sprouts, some kale, and in the middle we got some gobo. That was an experiment this season, and it didn't grow actually so well. Over on this side, another story, we got some beets. So not only can you use the beet roots, which we know and love, you can actually also use the beet greens. You can harvest the beet greens for things like juices, for eating in salads, for making green smoothies, or even for cooking. And we got a whole bed of beets that are filling out very nicely. And in the middle, we got some Napa cabbage that's heading up quite nice. So the next two beds, what we got some little lettuces here that are baby lettuces. We got a standard green and red. I always encourage you guys to grow and eat your foods of color. Don't just grow the standard iceberg lettuce, have different varieties. I probably have about, half dozen varieties growing in here. Over on this side, we're growing some celery root, which you can also eat the tops. We have a few onions sprinkled in here, as well as the leeks. The leeks are a very hardy winter crop and can grow in quite cold conditions. And in the middle, of course, we have some beautiful Swiss chard that I transplanted in there that basically came up as a weed and is now doing really well. And I have actually put a little small tomato cage over the Swiss chard to guide it to grow it up instead of to have it, the leaf out and fall over all my plants in the bed. Next, I have an entire bed of spinach with some gobo in the center and a nice tall dinosaur kale plant that's been living here for about a year now, so I didn't pull it. And then in this bed here, we had some bok choy that actually went to flower and seed rather quickly, so it didn't produce a lot for me. And then as well as some broccoli and some cabbages, oh, and some dandelions that were pre-existing in the bed that actually are growing quite well. I've also, used a little tomato cages to stake those guys, the dandelions, because they tend to spread out a lot. I want to grow them more tall so that, I could grow other plants around it and really pack in the plant density and plant a lot of plants closer together so that I could grow more and yield more food so I could have more food to eat. So in the next two beds here, we had my tree collard bed, so I had like 4 different tree collards planted in the bed. Due to the weather this year and some challenges with my irrigation system, I lost 2 of them, so I had to pull those guys out. But what remained in this raised bed are a green variety of the tree collards that I like so much. You guys can see it's towering there at probably over 8 feet, and then we have a purple variety that didn't fare so well, but it came back to life, so I was happy about that. And down below we have the Swiss chard, a really resilient crop that actually is not only grown through the tough weather, poor irrigation, but also has dropped a lot of seed and sprouted. I'm also happy to say that in that raised bed I let some tree collard seeds drop and sprout up, and I have some baby tree collard from seeds, so I'm interested to see if that's going to be exactly the same variety or very close to or similar to my current purple tree collards, which flowered and sprouted seed last year. This bed here, we have a few collard plants that are just sitting in there from last year. In addition, this is my perennial bed. So this perennial bed has the Egyptian walking onions that do so well. You can harvest the bulb, you can harvest the leaves. I mean, it's a really nice plant, grows year-round, even in the hot and the cool weather, no problem whatsoever. And in addition, I have some clumping onions here that I just recently got planted around the sides. So in these next 2 beds, we got one of my all-new favorite foods. I never used to grow these guys in a big way, but now I am because I'm learning to appreciate the flavor and also the nutritional benefits of the onions. And so we have a majority of sweet onions planted with some shallots, which is also in the onion family, and then also some more better storage onions. The sweet onions I like for eating because literally some of them that I grow you could pick and eat like an apple, not that I would do that, but they have a mild onion flavor. But the problem with the sweet onions is that they don't actually necessarily store that well. They're not a good storage onion like for the winter. It's good to have the other varieties that are better storage onions. So we're growing a variety of onions in these, not only the sweet, but also the good storage onions that are more hardcore in the flavor. And we got the reds, the yellows, and the whites. I want to encourage you guys to, eat a few onions here and there in your diet. Based on some of the research I've seen, they actually are very beneficial for us as a nutritional food. Hippocrates said, "Let food be your medicine and medicine be your food." Onions, based on some of the research I've seen, are one of those foods that can be used as a medicine. And some of the studies I've seen show that it may help inhibit cancer growth and whatnot. All right, in these next 2 beds, we got more greens. After all, my channel is called Growing Your Greens, and I want you guys to grow your greens too, not only in the winter time when greens are more hardy, they tend to grow better, but also in the summer because there are summer greens you can grow as well. One of them, which actually is right here. This is the dinosaur kale. After over a year in the ground, it's finally actually going to seed and flower. I'll be saving some of these seeds of this dinosaur kale to grow in future years. And on the bottom here, another thing I'm growing is more of the Napa cabbage, and I'll be actually making some of my own sauerkraut using some of this Napa cabbage. In addition, I got some escarole that is more bug-proof than, say, the lettuce is. And then next door in this bed here, we have a lot more leafy greens growing, dark leafy greens. This is the dinosaur kale, got some cabbage, some cauliflower, and broccoli that I've already been eaten off of. All right, so now I'm in a shady spot in my yard, and despite being in the shade, I got some raised beds here, and these beds actually get less sun than many of the other ones, but yet I still have things growing. Now, if I do have a shady spot, I'm gonna tend to grow more herbs or leafy greens in there instead of other fruiting crops. So this bed here, what I've turned into is a perennial bed, which means I plant it once, and I might fill in a few things here and there, but pretty much the things in here grow year-round. So on the top here we have the standard green tree collards. We also have some purple tree collards that are now going to flower. And on the bottom here we have some Chinese green onions, also known as ha. And on the bottom we also have some mint growing. And also I got some goji berries growing down here on the bottom. Over on this side, another good crop to grow, you know, leafy green to grow for the shade. These guys right here, they love the Las Vegas weather. They're very tolerant crops. It's Swiss chard. So check out the colors on this Swiss chard, man. It's like nice, vibrant pink. And then we got like ones that are, you know, kind of more reddish. And we got ones that are kind of just like the standard white color. We got ones that are like light green. Each different Swiss chard in here is a total different color. There's like an orange one there, a yellow one. It's really cool, you know. I want to encourage you guys, especially in the wintertime, to grow your foods of color, not just things that are green, but things that have pigments in them, you know, like the awesome colors in the Swiss chard. It's some of these pigments that are really good nutrition that contain the, you know, antioxidants and phytochemicals that can protect us from disease and keep us healthy. Now we have another 2 beds of the allium family. So besides just the onions, which I have actually mostly all yellow sweet onions planted in this bed, over on this side, we got the garlic. So I got the Enchilium red garlic planted out in this whole raised bed, and it's going to produce probably enough garlic for me for the year. I eat onions probably more often than I eat the garlic. Garlic's fairly strong, but it also has, you know, anti-cancer properties and whatnot to it based on the research I've seen. And, you know, the onions and the garlic, especially here in the winter, in the mild climate we have, they grow really well. And that's why I like growing them, because, you know, they're pretty much low maintenance crops. Just plant them, you know, get them going, and give them a little bit of water, and they're going to produce some food for you. And these are good storage foods. So the garlic, you know, I'm going to grow it once per year, and then after I have the harvest, I have enough garlic to get me to the next harvest for the most part. And the same thing with the onions. I'll grow onions. I have a variety of sweet and non-sweet ones, and they'll store a good period of time to get me maybe through 8 months out of the year, so that I'll have onions constantly. In addition, I want to remind you guys that on onions and the garlic, you can always cut off the leaves, you know, of them to use them to get that garlic flavor. If you'd like, you could even harvest young onions or garlic and harvest them when you want and use them at any stage. They don't need to be that big, you know, onion bulb or the big garlic clove that we're used to. The whole plant is edible and can be used, you know, whenever you like, if you're growing it. So next we have some perennial beds. These beds also used to be full of the purple tree collards, but I sustained massive losses this winter. But it's cool because it's a good opportunity to start fresh and plant some new tree collards. And actually I have plenty of starts going that you'll see in just a minute. But in this bed, it had green and purple tree collards. I think all the purple ones are gone now, but the greens made it. And, you know, I want to let you guys know that the green tree collards are much more hardy, much more resistant, you know, to the bad weather and to drought than the purple variety that's a little bit more sensitive. And also in this bed we have some other perennial crops growing, such as the parsley. We got some wild dandelion that's going to flower in there, and we also got some celery actually that seeded itself in here, because I never planted celery in here. And sometimes I like when volunteers come up, and most oftentimes, you know, depending on the bed, I'll just let them grow and do their thing, because if that's where they want to be, you know, I have no problem with it. And, you know, one of the things many people don't realize is that, you know, when you transplant yourself, like when you move, moving is one of the most stressful things that you or I could do as a person. I mean, you got to like pack all your stuff and move. And it's the same way with the plants, you know, transplanting, you know, your plants from a little starter cell into the ground. Every different transplant puts additional stress on the plant, which in the long run may reduce its yield. So for that reason, it's always best to let seeds start where they're going to start and let them grow right there so they never have to move. And one of these days, maybe I'll have a nice place and I won't have to move either. So on this side, yet we have another perennial raised bed. This is kind of like my tree collard bed slash herb bed. And you can see here some of the tree collards that didn't make it. I hadn't yet pulled them out of the ground. But some of the other things, the understories of this, which act as a ground cover to retain the moisture. You know, I'm not a big fan of using mulches like leaves or straw and wood chips, something like that. You know, I don't really have a problem with it, but it's just not my gardening style. If you're doing it, that's great. You know, there's pros and cons to every different gardening style. I find that, you know, if you're having mulch and things like that on the ground, you know, it may tend to attract bugs and different things like that I don't necessarily want in my garden. So I like to grow a living mulches instead. As you guys can see, we got a nice ground cover here, And this is the bee balm, and that's really taking over quite good. I use the leaves. You could use the leaves in tea. I like to also eat the flowers. We also have some rosemary there, some onion and garlic chives. Once again, they're great growers. Once again, they were actually really hindered by the cold weather and the lack of water. Now that it's warmed up a little bit, they're getting some good water. They're back in full force, and man, sometimes I just like, you know, picking these guys and eating them when I'm in the garden. Nice mild garlic or onion flavor. In addition, back here, number one herb to grow in the desert, the sage. This guy, it's actually starting to flower. I can't wait for the flowers. I love to eat the flower petals. In addition, after it goes to flower, it goes to seed. So this guy actually went to flower, went to seed, dropped seed, and in the bed next door here, we have some sage growing as well that actually I didn't plant. And here's the little plant coming out. You know, I didn't even plant this guy, but you know, that's where he wants to be, so I'm leaving him. All right, so the last raised bed we got here, this is a perennial bed, and actually this bed, all the tree collards live, so I was actually quite happy. Maybe my soil's a little better in this bed, maybe there's more minerals, or maybe it was just getting, you know, a little bit more water. But anyways, we got the tree collards growing. We got not only the purple variety in here, but we also got the green variety that's sprouting up. In addition, we got some celery that's actually volunteers. We got my special Bocking comfrey here. And check this guy out. This guy was actually transplanted from the front yard. He was a weed coming up in the front yard. And this is actually known as the mallow. So I like to eat the mallow leaves. They're definitely really good. And there's a few crops here that I need to harvest the seeds from last year and maybe plant them in the ground. Maybe they'll come up. This is actually the purple Malabar spinach that did so well. And yeah, this bed probably need to give it a little bit of work. And I'm probably going to plant some new herbs in the bottom story to get a lot better ground cover. You know, I'm feeling that in this bed, I'm seeing too much ground, and I want to try to cover that with greenery so I can produce some more food. And also, you know, it'll help, you know, retain some of the water in the soil instead of it just evaporating. So besides just growing in the raised beds that you guys saw, I also have some containers, or a container garden. And I have many containers, my favorite of which are these guys. They're made by Dawn Enterprises. This is the Aqua and Oasis self-watering planters. They hold a lot of extra water, so you don't have to water that frequently. And the other thing is that they have a nice wide diameter to plant a lot of plants in. So these are commercial quality. Now be sure to stay tuned for a future episode on these guys if it hasn't been posted already. And I'm growing a variety of different crops in here. The lettuces that are bolting, Brassica family plants. I got some chickweed that's coming up, as well as some sorrel, red vein sorrel, some standard sorrel, and some dinosaur kale that's doing quite well. So now we're in one of my 3 greenhouses I have, and these are just a really inexpensive, cheap greenhouse, and actually some of the shelves buckled earlier in the year and I found things on the ground, so I had to kind of like rebuild it and then take some of the load off, and it happened actually right after I watered. But I also grow in greenhouses to control the climate, especially in the wintertime when it gets colder. The greenhouses will keep things a little bit warmer, and actually I had tomato seeds sprout and germinate and grow in my unheated greenhouses here. So that was pretty cool without any additional heating. So that kind of tells you how warm it must be in the greenhouses. And we have things like more onions and garlic growing and some baby starts that's going to be soon planted out in the spring/summer garden, as well as a whole bunch of Swiss chard that I actually dug up and have as transplants. In addition, we got some peppers that I overwintered in the greenhouse and inside that are now in the greenhouse, as well as some sugarcane that actually looks like they're still sprouting and growing. So this year they're going to get transplanted into some beds to hopefully produce a lot of sugarcane stock for me to eat. So now what we're looking at is yet another container that I'm using that's actually been working fairly well for me. It's actually called the Garden Tower Project. And I have a video that I made about this, setting it up. I'll put a link down below if you haven't seen that video, if you're looking for a really good container garden that allows you to grow lots of food. This is definitely it. At first I had some challenges with watering, you know, because you water through the top and everything soaks down. You really have to give it a good drenching each time. And so you're going to drench it, you know, like once, let the water soak down through it, and then it's going to be good for, you know, a few days depending on your weather. Then you need to water again. It's really not a good idea to shallow water this because the water won't seep down to get to all the plants. That's one of the things I've learned. So the last part of this garden tour today is my pallet garden. So I have 2 pallets stacked on some planters with my drip irrigation running off and running into each pot. And this part of my garden is just literally 1-gallon pot gardens. And so what I have in here is basically mostly tree collards that I've been propagating so I can have more to plant. In addition, I'm growing some achataba that looks like it's actually doing quite well here. We are in quite a shady spot, and I encourage you guys to use shady spots to your advantage. It does get quite hot and warm here, and under the tree it's nice and shady, but gets enough sun for these guys to grow, especially when they're younger, so that they can flourish. And then of course you're going to want to harden them off, or maybe take them out of the shade into the sun for a few hours each day, for a period of time before you plant them out in the full sun, in the full-on garden, so that it'll reduce, once again, that transplant shock that we're trying to avoid. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode learning about what I'm growing here in the wintertime in the desert. And I want to encourage you guys, no matter where you live, there's always a way to grow some food today in your garden or in your kitchen through microgreens and sprouts. Be sure to subscribe to my videos if you're not already, and be sure to check my past episodes. I have over 900 episodes at this point that cover a variety of topics if you want to grow your own food, especially the highest quality, nutrient-dense foods you can grow. Once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep on growing. All right, this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. We're coming at you from a very special place in the world. Well, maybe not that special. We're actually coming at you